Good evening and welcome back to GIAKA blog. So I am here this evening just to give a quick update and really talk about something that I recently completed, which was really about, I took this test a few months ago, but it's the Ancestry DNA. I was really interested in learning about my ethnic origin and things like that. So a few months ago, specifically back in December, I decided to order the kit and take the kit for myself. And since that time, I've actually had my mom and my brother recently take it. We're waiting for their results. We haven't gotten them back yet. And then even Andrew was interested in doing it, so he recently sent his test in as well, and so we're waiting for his results. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my results and, just say I really didn't have any expectations. I didn't know what I was one way or the other, and I didn't have any expectations. But it was really interesting. So if you take a look here, you can see the results, and I'll kind of go through them in detail. But what I'm going to do is include a little bit of footage of actually when I was taking the test, and I'm telling you, the test was really quick and easy. However, when I finished and putting the cap on and trying to get that dye into the saliva, that was a challenge, trying to screw it as tight enough so that it would get in there. So in any event, here's a little bit of footage, and I also put some footage in about really once I got my results and what you do and kind of going through the system, because I think it's really interesting to see your results, but then also talk about where you come from in pictures and words and tell you what was going on in the United States during that time. I'm coming to you today to talk about something that's very important to me. It's really kind of like has been my passion most recently, but something I've always been interested in for a very long time, and that's ancestry and where we come from. So I am just in love with this show called Finding Your Roots, which comes on Sundays on PBS with Dr. Henry Louis Gates. And I've been watching the show really since the first season that it started, and there may be about 5 or so seasons now that he's been doing this. And so after watching that, I believe I kind of got my renewed passion and interest in wanting to find my roots. So I do have my own reasons for wanting to do that. But most importantly, I'd like to be able to connect with family who I don't know. I have this whole other family that I just don't know them. So what I've decided to do was, since it's the holidays and all of these specials were going on, I decided to order me a DNA kit. So it came in the mail, and you might not be able to see it because it's too bright, but it's Ancestry DNA. Now, just so you know, I'm actually going to also do the 23andMe. I recently watched a video that was presented by the New England kind of Heritage Foundation, and they do a lot with ancestry and DNA tests and things like that. And so I did that because I wanted to do some research to find out which of these tests and kits might be best for me. I'm not really interested in knowing my own I'm not interested in knowing my ancestry and my health status, because with the 23andMe you can actually request both. They'll do your DNA and determine what your makeup is and what percentage of this ethnicity you are versus another ethnicity. And then they'll also test your genes and stuff to see if you are predisposed to any type of health conditions and things like that. I'm a pretty healthy person, so I'm not really interested in that. But what I am interested in is really being able to see who shares DNA with me and to be able to connect to try to find other family members whom I don't know. My maternal grandmother was an only child. So although she was an only child, she actually had a lot of cousins because her father had a number of siblings. There were, at least from what I can see, I've done research through the census records and things like that. For my great-grandfather, it looks like he had at least 8 other siblings. So, and it's a pretty big family. You know, they originated from, what is it called? It's Attala County in Mississippi, also known as McCool, M-C-C-O-O-L. And so, you know, that's where I started, and it's been really interesting. So what I want to do is tell you too about this website. It's www.familysearch.org. Now this website is pretty much kind of manned and started by Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, i.e. Mormons. And it's a very good site because what it does is it puts a lot of information at your fingertips, such as the different census, other type of public records, including marriages, divorces, because a lot of that stuff has been indexed and is available online through different states. So that is a website that I actually use to research my maternal grandmother's side of the family, because that's pretty much what I want to find out, because I just know there's a lot of family there, and family that we don't even know, who not only still lives in Memphis and Mississippi, but probably other areas as well. We are connected to the family that's in St. Louis. My grandmother's first cousin, who is well in his 90s now, is actually still alive. And it's not her only, well, I don't know. It might be her only first cousin that's still alive. I don't know. But so we've kind of always been connected with at least family in St. Louis. And my grandmother's been connected with all of her family. It's just that really I wasn't so much. So what I'm going to do is challenge you all to go to that website. And if you don't know your family history, you know, that will be a place to start. You usually start out with entering your deceased family members' information, where they were born, if you know, or even if where they died. But for me, it's been interesting because I have been able to find the first census where my grandmother was actually a part of, which was the 1920 census in McCool, Attala County, Mississippi. It was a 1920 census, as I said, and at that time she was listed as 1 year old. So I just thought that was so cool. Other information I've been able to find on my grandmother is her school records through the Mississippi. It's called the School of Educable, Enumeration of Educable Children. And so what it is essentially is school records. So my grandmother had basically been registered for school from the time she was, I believe, either 5 or 6. And I've been able to kind of follow that path up until I know she was at least 17 or 18 years old. So it's just really interesting. So www.familysearch.org, it really connects you to a lot of public records through the various states. And this is actually a site that I found on the U.S. Census website. Now, another interesting fact about the U.S. Census, most people don't know this, and I thought this was really interesting, is census information is only available outside of a 72-year window. So what do I mean by that? Well, the first census was actually taken, if my memory serves me correctly, in about 1790. And it's been taken every year since then. There was a time period in the late 1870s or late 1800s, I'll say, where there was a fire, and so part of the census records actually had caught on fire and burned. So they weren't able to save some of them. However, this 72-year rule means online you can only find census information going back from 1940 and previous. So anytime previous to 1940. And you think about it, you add 72 years onto that, and it kind of takes us to about this time period now. Now, why do they have that rule? I don't know, but it's part of the federal law. It's just something that they decided. Now, I have my suspicions. I really think it's done, to protect privacy of people, first of all, because, outside of 72 years, most people will probably have moved on and transitioned. So that's why I'm thinking they have that 72-year rule. Now, from what I read online, you can still access, or not access, but kind of go in person to Washington, D.C. or what have you. And if it is like your direct information or your direct family, you may be able to then access that information. So I've only been able to get information from 1940 and older through the U.S. Census online. And I am so looking forward to, I think I calculated around 2022. The year 2022 is when the 1950s census information should be released. And I'm interested in that because I feel like a lot of things happened during that time frame, especially for my family. I haven't been able to find any information on my grandmother's grandfather, which would be my great-great-grandfather. I haven't been able to find information on him after, really, I believe it was 1920 when I looked. I found information on him in the 1910 census, which lists basically my grandmother's dad and all of his siblings, and then even the 10 years after that for those siblings, which would be my grandma's, aunts and uncles who were still living at the home with their dad. And so that was the 1920 census, but really I hadn't found anything with him after that, which can be a number of reasons. His name was spelled a couple of different ways on the different censuses, or maybe he had passed on after 1930. I don't know this, and now I'm speaking of my grandmother's granddad. And so I just, I'm kind of at a wall there, but I have so much information up until that point. So in any event, back to what I'm going to do. I'm going to right now collect my sample from the Ancestry DNA kit. So what I'm essentially doing now is collecting the saliva. And actually, it's not as much as I thought. When I look, now that I've actually opened the package, it's only about this much. It is only about 1/4. So, as I said, right now what I'm doing is spitting I'm collecting my saliva. I have my saliva to the wavy line, and now the instructions are to basically replace this funnel with the cap. So this is another part, the cap that it comes with, which actually has the activation solution. So you just unscrew this funnel. That's what this was for here. And you basically are going to tighten this on here. Just tighten it to release the stabilizing fluid. So I don't really see any fluid coming out yet, which means I probably haven't tightened it enough. Oof. That was a task. Finally got it out though. So it's a little blue on top. So the fluid, I don't know, it was kind of hard. It didn't come out initially. However, I finally got it out. And then you shake the tube to mix it up for about 5 seconds. And now the saliva doesn't look white anymore. It's kind of grayish, bluish. And once you have done that, you're set to go. So my ethnicity estimates, as they call it, I am almost 80% primarily of origins or have West African origins. So specifically, 34% Nigerian, 27% Cameroon Congo, 13% Mali, 5% from Ivory Coast / Ghana. And then I also have low confidence areas, which are Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. That's 5%. No, actually, excuse me, 6%. Europe West is 4%. Senegal, 3%. Iberian Peninsula, 2%. Caucasus, 2%. And then less than 1% for the African South Central hunter-gatherers, Benin, Togo, and less than 1% Native American. So that's my ethnic makeup. And, you know, I wasn't surprised, like I said, with anything. I was really surprised, though, at how much of my ethnic estimate really comes from West Africa. So I would encourage everyone else, you know, to try it and do it as well, because it's been really neat being able to have connections and with other people who've done it. I've actually found like a second cousin. Of course, I have no idea who they are or anything, but just so close in Chicago. And a third cousin, and then the rest are basically fourth cousins and more. So I just wanted to give you an update, talk about the Ancestry DNA, because I'm really excited and glad that I finally did it, and just encourage you all to really do it as well, because I think it's something good to do, and you know, just kind of see what other connections you might have out there. So with that, I'm going to end the vlog and say thank you for watching. Bye.